All right, we'll call the meeting to order. It's now 7:05. This is the Thursday, October 27th meeting of the North Andover Board of Health. We're now called to order, and our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That's very apropos given the upcoming election. We should all maybe do that every day.
Red, white, blue, and yellow one. All right.
All right, so now our first order of business following our agenda is to go into public hearing. So we have a tobacco violation which was issued to Sam's Mobile Mart. So, Brian, why don't you indicate the situation and
Okay.
we can talk a little bit and decide what we'd like to do.
Sure. This is a second violation within a 24-month period. So in that, our regulations do trigger additional enforcement and potential ramifications for this type of a violation. So sale to a minor. Ron Beauregard from Tobacco Control is here to discuss it and give us a rundown as to what transpired on the day and for the sale, and then the board can discuss what you guys want to do moving forward. As I said before, the retailer has been notified. He is certified mail to attend this meeting for a potential suspension, which is written in the regulations for a second violation, as well as a $200 fine that has been appealed to the clerk magistrate's office. So I'll pass it off to Ron. And
thank you, Brian. Yes, we were conducting our routine compliance checks for the retailers that hold a tobacco sales permit on September 23rd this year. One of the students, 16 years old, entered the store at approximately 4:50 p.m. and purchased a package of Newport cigarettes. She was asked for ID, but wasn't able to produce one. And what I believe to be a 17-year-old student at the cash register did make the sale. After inputting all the data onto the smartphone that we have issued, I issued a citation for $200 because I had noted that they had a previous sale on December 30th of 2015. So under Section 3.1 of your regulations, that does indicate for a second offense that not only is it a $200 fine, but that the store would be subject to a potential 7-day suspension of their tobacco sales license. I spoke with the young gentleman who, the best way I can put it is, was distraught over his error. Look, I would report to you the way that it was received, whether it was one in disbelief or one with perhaps some belligerence. In this case here, he was this young man, 17-year-old, just was upset with himself. And my human reactions, I've been doing this job since 2001, I don't take any enjoyment at all out of this sort of a situation. I felt bad, but I explained to him what happened, what the process would be, and I did encourage him to let his boss know, because of course this is always a sensitive topic, because folks that are just working there on an hourly basis are there at the discretion of their employer, and making this sort of mistake could jeopardize their job. So what I said to him is, be sure that you offer to come to the Board of Health hearing with your employer, to just let the board know the human side of it. So I left. I did do a follow-up inspection. I can look it up phone here, but it was certainly within a few weeks, probably a couple of weeks of the sale. I do this oftentimes because, of course, the focus of our program is educational. We do have enforcement, and that's important, and we don't shy from issuing that citation. It is a civil citation, we're not calling anyone a criminal for doing this. We're saying it's an error, a mistake, it's negligent, and it can't continue. I went in and there was another gentleman there. I wasn't able to talk to Mr. Amin, who we have a very amicable relationship. He has a very, in terms of tobacco stock, since the North Andover's policy of restricting the sale of flavored tobacco and minimum pricing on cigars, he has trimmed down his tobacco stock dramatically. It's predominantly cigarettes and not too many brands. So while it's technically a mini mart, it's not a full-fledged one. I talked to this gentleman, and he reiterated the fact, and again, you gauge whether levels of sincerity and as to the way people approach, and he conveyed what I kind of observed firsthand, that this guy was upset about it. I haven't spoken with the owner since this time, and I've gotten the communications that you mentioned. Every board handles these things with either a straightforward suspension or sprinkles in their own creativity to get to the same goal, which is to make it a teaching moment, to make it a behavior conditioning moment, and I'll be happy to engage in any conversation you have to get to the end.
One, you mentioned that you have done this since 2001.
I have.
Okay. Well, since 2001, there have been 8 violations at Sam's Mobile. It appears to be a family-owned business. What I find to be disturbing is that this being contested, that is defined in court. Certainly would like to know what the basis of contesting it is, and that without doubt, tobacco products have been sold to a person under 21 years old. So therefore, if it's being contested, it says to me that this is an opportunity to have a reduction in fine, as has been contested by Sam's Mobile in the past, and indeed the fine in court was reduced. After 8 violations, I just don't think they get it. I really don't. And I think we should give some consideration to 7-day suspension. ID all, it's called the Fenway rule. And maybe some additional training that will be provided by the government at no cost to them. Sorry, after 8 times, they don't get it. Open for further discussion.
I mean, it sounds like it. If they were really serious, the training issue was maybe the first or second violation many years ago. But it just seems like they're not educating their employees well enough so that they can maintain that minimum standard to not sell cigarettes to minors, or under 21 now. So I think we should go ahead and discuss it and make our judgment tonight, in my opinion, because somebody could have showed up from the family to at least address it with us, I think. I think it would have been better for somebody to have been here, but because they're not here doesn't mean we can't address it and adjudicate it this evening. So I think it should be the 7-day suspension. They've been here, I remember when they were here before, back in 08, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
So.
Well, there
I
are
think
2
we should
parts
look-
of this. This is the second violation under our rules, and there's 2 parts to the enforcement. There's the fine and there's the suspension. Our regulations don't really allow for reduction in the, sort of the formality of it doesn't really allow for reduction in the fine. The fine is sort of there and set. It really, the hearing for the agent is, you're the agent, for the owner is against the suspension.
Correct.
And that's sort of how we've looked at it in the past. The fine is the fine. That, I mean,
Yes.
we could make a decision outside of our regulations, but it's really goes to the suspension.
Correct. And back in 2008, you guys did get a legal opinion from town council that they are separate, and you can't, even if the court dismisses the fine, you still legally can't impose a suspension from the board.
Mhm.
So that's already been vetted legally. You guys have done that in the past. So, and that being said, it doesn't limit you guys in any way if you do want to carry forward the suspension or additional mandate on training. The IDL policy, the Fenway rule, is something that you guys, well within your powers to discuss and determine.
So there's no misunderstanding, because what Tom just said is not what I understood. And what I understand is that the fine can be contested in court.
That
It
goes-
has been contested in
Correct.
court.
Yep.
Last time Sam's Mobile contested it in court, the fine was reduced. However, above and beyond that, the 7-day suspension, the ID of everyone, the training is our unilateral
Correct.
decision, not the
Exactly,
court.
exactly.
Okay, so all talking, just want to be sure we're all talking the same language here.
I honestly just.
But it's not really sort of, my point is, it's not sort of in our purview really to, according to the regulation, to discuss the fine. The fine is there, and I think really we ought to, I mean, the court may make a separate decision,
Agreed.
but we ought to
Agreed.
discuss the
The other three
suspension and the other
elements.
actions
Yes.
in terms of training,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fenway rule, so on.
Well, we can't assess our own fine, right?
Well, no, we
No,
have.
no, we have-
We have a
The fine is
$200
$200.
fine.
All right, so you're,
That's all
okay, so
regulation.
you're doing our fine that's written here then?
Yes.
You're the one that administered that citation. Okay, so you're just following what we have here?
Yes.
Okay.
The only question I have in regard to some of the measures to enforce, I agree that it's been confirmed by several councils that the language in here that says your decision about suspensions and in worst cases, even revocations, are decided independent of any proceeding in court on a citation. That I know to be true. The one thing that would be different that you're posing is the issue of mandatory Fenway Park rule of IDing all. The only, and I'm kind of like, it's going through my mind to be sure that I'm accurate what I'm about to say, but I think any time that we've had this, where we've used that as a creative tool to get folks to ID for a certain period of time, usually 3 months, 6 months, but those have usually been managed by an agreement. It's an understanding, an agreement with the person accused of the violation, as opposed to unilaterally being issued as an order of the board. I honestly don't know if that would be within the purview. And the only reason I mentioned that is that your section 15 on your violations is laid out. I mean, it would all depend on how you view whether this is all-encompassing or whether this would only be part of the powers of the board.
I think what I hear you saying is that we have the, in the regulation, we have a right to issue a suspension, and that the owner could have come to us in lieu of the suspension and come up with something creative
As an alternative.
as an alternative to the suspension. And I hear what you're saying, because if we issue a Fenway rule, we have no mechanism for enforcing it, other than reinstating a suspension.
I can get legal advice on that, but I believe that as a permitting authority, you do have the ability to apply additional conditions to the permit holder. I think you do have that option. And I can,
You think it would be, if we were to kind of guesstimate on it, do you think it would be indefinitely or for a period
it
of
would
time?
be a period of time. The permit only goes for 1 year,
Yeah.
so those conditions would be synonymous with that 1-year permit. You guys did implement this with Sam's Mobile back in 2005. You did a 6-month IDL policy with a 3-day suspension because of a second sale back then. So this has already been done before in the past. I think,
But that was a 3-day suspension, so
We have a
it's a
different,
compromise.
we have a
Correct.
different
Right.
regulation now, though.
we do have a different
Well,
regulation now
but-
as well.
But I know that timing, to my knowledge, I don't think that 7 days has ever changed.
But I think these numbers, the dollars and the time suspension didn't change. We kept that
Yeah.
part the same.
That Fenway rule really is just to get them more in the habit of checking age than anything. It doesn't have to go on forever, but then it's gonna be like brushing your teeth. They automatically,
Well,
We'll
Larry,
just keep
you actually
checking.
bring up a good point, but the testimony that you got from Ron is that they did ask for the ID and one was not produced. And despite the remorse of the clerk, I don't understand how they got to that next step.
right.
So that's the problem that I'm having trouble understanding. Can you give us anything further that you learned from that?
It happens from time to time. I can't explain it. You know, it's sometimes, not in this case, but, you know, sometimes folks in the defense will say, we asked for the ID, and, you know.
Well,
say,
but it was your person,
yeah.
she would tell you whether
Yeah.
they asked for the ID.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
So
But
she,
that's just-
she told you that she had an ID requested, but she couldn't produce one, but yet she was sold the cigarettes.
Yes.
That's a willful violation of the regulation. The person demonstrated that they understood the regulation, and they willfully violated it, because they thought nobody was looking. That's my point.
I mean, there's an emotional component to it. In the
Well,
sense
yes,
when you're young-
when you get caught, it's very.
Oh, no, when I mean emotional, I mean, look, maybe I've softened over the years, but.
Was she especially attractive? Would
No,
Donald rate her a 10?
No, not on that, no, not on that level. I think, no, this is, careful.
You're blushing over there,
I didn't
Frank.
say that.
No,
I did not
when I
say
say
that.
I'm sorry, it's my
emotional,
sarcasm.
no, when I say emotional, I mean that the greatest detriment, impediment to following the rules sometimes is being nice. The
Okay.
inclination to be nice. And it's, you know, the training obviously involved is you can be nice and decline. So,
The person that went in to buy them, does the young lady look over 21? Or does she look like
in my opinion,
a
no.
kid, little kid?
Not, in my opinion, she does not look 21. But this is all a matter of subjective, you know, of course, you have a requirement, I'd have to take a look, I think it's 27, right? Anyone who appears under the age of 27, which I suppose I should put in my pitch for some of the, yeah, yours is 27. Verification is required for anyone under the age of 27. You've done your regulations in a step-by-step, we'll say, process, right? Remember that? I think you did 3 levels. I think we addressed the age 21, the flavor, and prior to that, I think we did nicotine delivery system. I mean, it was, you kept moving step-by-step as opposed to doing it all at once. One of the things that some of the towns have done now is to change this verification for anyone who appears under the age of 40. I like that, and because you want to capture that whole 20s look person, especially when you've increased the age from 18 to 21. So leaving the static, the age that you're going to look at to be before you press produce an ID has stayed the same, but the age you can be has to be higher. So at least 30, preferably 40, I would recommend as an age.
I don't think that would change the issue here in this case, because even if that number was 100, again, the clerk asked for an ID, and the seller or the purchaser didn't produce one, and the cigarettes were still sold. I think the emotional part I could see is, I mean, I don't know if it was busy in the store or not, but you're thinking of a 17-year-old kid on the other side of the counter, and a peer coming in and wanting to buy cigarettes, and do you have your ID? And no, I don't have it, and how, I mean, I'm kind of looking at somebody else through somebody else's eyes, how strong is a 17-year-old to be able to turn somebody away who doesn't have what they're supposed to have? But
It's a lot,
that's
and they know
notwithstanding
it.
what your points as well.
Substitute liquor instead of tobacco.
Hmm.
If they ask for an ID and they can't produce it, they don't get it.
There are 3 things here that are disturbing, that makes it very difficult to be lenient. No ID, contesting the fine. Why? It happened.
That's
They're making mockery of it. They're contesting the fine because they won the last time, and they want to reduce the fine. And there's no one here. How can we work with them?
Well, how are they contesting the fine? Do we have anything more
Yes.
formal than?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Appeal it to-
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah, they appeal it to the person.
It's right here.
That's their right, though.
That's
I mean,
their right.
we
It's on the
can't-
ticket.
It's their right, but nevertheless, you put all this together and it just doesn't, it's not good.
Whether or not the past history going back very far is what we take into consideration or not, there is a pattern, and it is in the same family. So, it's not like the family wasn't warned.
It appears that there are two things that we can do. 7-day suspension and additional training.
Mhm.
And as far as the Fenway rule, you're not sure, you're going to look into it. But there are two things that we can do right now, and I feel we should do both of them.
No, I think we're arguing, we have a stance pretty firmly. I guess the question is, do we want to give them a chance to make a case, given past history?
They had a chance, they're not here.
This is it.
This is
They're
it.
not here.
This is it. And
Okay.
listen, let's just follow our own rules. This-
Okay, so let's move on. Make a motion.
I make a motion, Stan's Mobile, that because of their violation, selling tobacco products to one under 21 years old, that there's a mandatory 7-day suspension, selling tobacco products, and that there is training as per the law provided by the government at no cost to them.
Okay, we have to have a second on that motion.
Second.
Okay, so then, I don't disagree, but when we talk about training, how is that mechanism provided and sort of where does that come from? So we don't require something that we have no mechanism to do.
We do have a mechanism. I've already spoken to Ron about this, and we can do it. Ron's gonna provide it for free, no charge. I will attend as well, just to go through with their staff and go over all the rules and regulations, the laws, procedures of how to do it. And it'll be at their earliest convenience. So I will add that into the suspension letter and make sure that it is scheduled and done as soon as possible.
While we're in discussion, my question to you, Ron, is, let's say the vote goes through tonight, when does it become effective? And like, where do the cigarettes go? Who takes them out of the store?
Your regulations, they technically indicate to
They actually
move them
do.
from the
Yes,
premises.
They have to be removed
Okay.
from the premises.
Yes.
All right, so
Sometimes-
who takes them out?
They do.
They do.
They do.
Okay.
They remove
Yeah.
them, we inspect, make sure.
They
they're
own them, they just can't sell them.
Correct. They gotta get them off-site, they can't keep them in the back room,
Okay.
because
I didn't know if you took them and held them and then returned them. Okay, fine.
See, it appears that we're acting as tough as we can. Hopefully, by acting as such, it'll never happen again. And that has already happened 8 times.
Actually, I'm wondering, I'm not sure it's as tough as we can get, but I'm wondering if the penalty phase of this needs to be updated at a later date. For
Perhaps
future-
a later
for-
date.
Yeah, perhaps for future
Great.
violations.
Great.
I don't think it's enough for multiple violations. But it's something to.
we can look at the change to 27, we can update any of the violation punishment schedules you guys wanna look at, that's fine. We can definitely
What
do that.
schedules?
The graduated fines
Penalties,
or
yeah.
penalties.
If we open up the regulation, then we have to post a public hearing.
Yeah, we would do it, public hearing, you guys would review it, discuss it, make changes, and then at the next meeting adopt them.
Do we have to run an ad for that?
We would do legal ad, yeah.
You have to do that?
Yeah.
Some towns have, I mean, one simple way of dealing with it is to expand the tolling period from 24 months, perhaps another year, to 36 months. Some towns have done that. So you could capture a little further back.
What period, I'm sorry?
36 months.
36 months.
Oh, the framework of the
Looking
problem.
back,
Right,
yeah.
section
Yeah.
50.
It's a look back time.
Yes.
Well, but that's separate discussion from Joe's motion, so
Yes.
Right.
do we have any
Motion.
more discussion
Discussion.
on that motion? Please, you have anything to say over it? All right, so we'll move forward on that motion. Can you repeat that back to us, just so we're, or you want to repeat that back, Joe, just so we're very clear?
Why don't we see what she has down there?
Motion made by Mr. McCarthy for a mandatory 7-day suspension of selling tobacco products and training will be provided by the government at no cost to Sam's Mobile. I didn't know if I should add that into that motion, because you started talking about it during the motion. And then I said, Mr. Borga will provide the training for free, and Mr. LaGrasse will help, a letter will go out.
Yeah, so the motion
Motion
is 7 days
seconded by
suspension,
Mr.
mandatory
Fixler.
training.
Yeah,
That's
training is
perfect.
part of his motion.
Yep.
Yes.
And then we have Larry Fixer as a second.
Yeah.
We did discussion on the motion.
So the only clarification of the motion is that in the past, when we have somebody here, generally there's an agreement that when there's a suspension, you set an effective date. That was the question you raised. So we know what happens with the cigarettes. The question is an effective date, because we don't set an effective date here, they may come back and say, well,
Good point.
in a week, in 2 weeks, in a month.
For point of discussion on that note, in the past, when they did not show up at a hearing prior to this, you did impose suspension, let them choose their date. Subsequently from that, they did not choose their date, so the board or the department chose it for them. So we can give them the option to choose their dates, which is fine. If
How
they
far
don't
in
do it,
advance could they?
Yeah, to be
choose?
chosen within X period of time, I think.
30 days.
Okay.
That's reasonable.
Okay.
Okay. So an amendment added to the motion to allow them to choose their 7-day suspension window within the next 30 days.
So we have to vote, we have to okay the amendment.
Yes,
Yep.
you're right.
Just do it.
Yep.
You're right.
Just do it. So make a motion to make an amendment to Joe's motion on the suspension of Sam's Mobile for 7 days. The amendment is, Brian, what was that amendment I was just about to say?
To allow them to choose their 7-day suspension window
To allow them to
within the
choose
next 30 days.
exactly what Brian said.
You got that?
I kind of consider that a friendly amendment and take that by consensus, I think.
Yes, we'll take that by unanimous consent.
Do you have to second my amendment?
No, it's unanimous.
It's done, okay.
It's-
Do we have to
there's no-
vote on it, or we?
Nope, it's already
Unanimous consent.
consented.
You tell me about that one.
Unanimous consent, very useful.
Very nice. Do we
Consent
have-
agenda. I just did a lot.
You could also say without objection, it's accomplished.
Tell me about that, too.
Mhm.
Real fast, though.
Seeing no objections, I consider this passed. So then we go to the main motion as amended.
As amended, correct.
So any further discussion on that? Okay, and we'll take a vote on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that passes.
Yeah, unanimously.
So Frank, if I said without objection, the meeting is closed?
Well, no, you can't do it. He
No, I
can do
know
it
that,
'cause
I'm
he's
just
the
saying,
chair.
but Tom can do that too, right?
The motion, at least the motion
He has to,
be accepted first.
He has to ask for objection.
Real fast, though.
He has to ask for objection, and then say there being none.
I got you, okay.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ron.
Incidentally, with the change in the regulations that we had made, I was quite adamant to do nothing until you brought in all those flavored tobacco products. And that was it.
Well, it's a
That-
game
that was
changer.
it. It was a game
It's a
changer
game
to me.
changer,
It may
yeah.
have been a game changer to Larry too,
Yeah, well,
I'm not sure.
I mean, I could see the enticement to a younger
To
person.
a kid, yeah.
Those highly sweet, super sweet products.
Don't hold me to this, but when you adopted that policy, they were approximately, less than a dozen, I think, in the state that adopted it, and now I believe we're up over 50.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
so,
wow, 60s now.
I think it's 60,
Yeah.
maybe 70, I can't keep track.
I know,
Chase
right.
constantly
Wow.
adding to that list.
Thanks to the work you and
Yes,
Frank, you and Frank
absolutely.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
always
mean,
remember that
original
word.
rewrite.
Yeah.
And of course, Joe and I dragged it out for 3 months, but we got it done finally.
We got it done. We got it done, and it went through with everybody's agreement.
That's right. It's, something like this should go through unanimously.
One of the few times I've been to a doctor's office and not discussing my health.
Before you leave, is there any way, you have a list of what various penalties, phases would be from some of the towns under your supervision?
Oh, yes,
That you
I
could
have a
forward
list
to
for
us?
the whole state, actually, so
Good.
they'll tell you the different total. I believe I have something for all the different
Fines and
totals.
days of suspension,
Yes.
and how far back,
Yeah.
that would be good for us to look at, because I personally think ours needs updating.
But we did just, honestly, we updated this in October of 2015.
Yeah?
Yeah, and know that the
Just
most,
the penalty. I'm talking about.
yeah, the penalties, for the most part, just as a shorthand, the maximum that Chapter 40, Section 21D allows is 300, so that is the max. Otherwise, you have to go into the criminal mode, which
The
I
max
do not
dollar
recommend.
violation, dollar
Yeah.
fine.
$1.
But some have tinkered with, raising the first violation to $200 or $150, and then the second to $250. It's,
That's
but
interesting.
within the realm of.
What is it, chapter 40, what you said?
Chapter 40, section 21D, yeah. It's just, yeah.
Just a municipal law that allows the various town authorities to issue fines.
All right, I'll
Now,
check with-
fines
Thanks a lot
can be
for your help on
issued,
that.
but it's not a misdemeanor, it's not a felony, it's not a criminal activity, as Barbara's records.
It's a civil violation,
It's
correct?
a civil
It has nothing to
violation.
do with-
Exactly.
Correct.
Just want to make that clear.
It's a parking ticket.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, if you don't pay it,
Oh, please, don't talk about
then
that.
it graduates even further. So there can be additional benefits from the
Ah.
state on that. So, like you said, that's why we're doing, it's a non-criminal, but he filed it in the criminal clerk's office versus the non-criminal, the civil.
So that if it needs to
So if it
escalate,
needs to
it has-
escalate,
has
they
a,
have
has a
that.
place to go to.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very
Ron?
much.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, yeah, thank you.
And we'll be in touch real soon.
I'm glad I didn't have to speak outside. Take care.
Thanks, Ron, good to see you.
Yeah, same here.
Good work, thanks.
All right, we have meeting minutes from August 23rd, 2016. Larry, you have those minutes? Those have been distributed and reviewed, so I'd entertain a motion to accept those.
Make a motion to accept Tuesday, August 23rd, 2016 meeting minutes for the Board of Health, North Andover Board of Health.
Second.
Seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Unanimous. Okay?
All right, we don't have any old business to consider at the moment, so we'll move on to new business. So we have a 2017 Board of Health meeting agenda.
And these are the dates that we have booked at on the calendar, that for Thursday, we switched back to Thursdays, we have the bill, town hall's available, we have that booked up. The only thing that you might want to take a look at is February, November, and December, just because of the way that the holidays fall. And
So the February change is because of
School
school
vacation.
vacation.
So school vacation week would be the week of the 20th, of the Monday.
yes,
Okay, so that looks good. And then November 16th, that's to avoid Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
I don't see any problem with that, and December 14th, to avoid the Christmas holiday, because the next Thursday would be the 21st, so I agree with that too.
Okay.
I would move to accept the meeting agenda as presented.
I second that. Brian, in the past, we haven't always had a meeting in August because of vacations, but I'm glad we have it penciled in.
if you're penciled in, we can change it at your leisure.
Mhm.
So if you guys have something that you want to rearrange, this is fluid, you can do it with a board vote or whatever you guys see fit.
I'd suggest maybe take this as a report. If we move it into minutes as a motion, then we may have to vote on every change of the dates. This is not
Good idea.
an action of the
Yeah.
board, this is a
Yep.
report essentially of our plan for next year. I mean, to be formal about it, I guess.
So I withdraw my motion to accept the
Accept the report.
So we'll accept the report for planning purposes. Excellent.
Okay.
And then,
Then move on to communications, announcements, and discussions. So Brian wants to discuss some of the things we
Yep.
talked about before and a little progress, and we can do some open discussion about Board of Health priorities.
yeah, and we still have some time to finalize this for 2017. But I took what we discussed at our last meeting, I made a couple of notes here. I have started working on some of these just because the things that we wanted to accomplish sooner rather than later. But these are just that list we worked on before. If you guys want to, you can try to prioritize them. What's most important to the board to start off with? this coming winter and through the next year. Anything in particular you guys see in a more pressing sort of situation, let me know what you guys want me to start working on right away. As it is now, I'm gonna start chipping away on all these, but if there's anything you guys see that you want at the top of the list, let me know, and I can put that right up there at the top.
My opinion is just to do the ones you can get done
Okay.
the easiest at first.
Take the
Okay.
low-hanging
Quickest.
fruit first.
Exactly, oh, yeah. This way you can get more accomplished.
Yes. And I've started to chip away at some of these too that are
Check
starting
things
some of
off
the
the box.
easier.
Right.
Yeah.
We've done half of it.
Yes.
Well, that's one way to approach, but I guess if we looked at this list of things we made, is there some hot button item that we'd like to start making progress on that might not be a low-hanging thing that can be
Correct.
done quickly, but we'd
Exactly.
like to start getting progress done? And I think from my recollection, so to speak, I think the serve safe and the rental housing were things that were pretty important, things we spent a lot of time on. Some of these things will take, coordination and so on with outside entities like the CPR, obviously.
Mhm.
But from my recollection in terms of planning thing, the rental housing was probably the biggest sort of project, I guess, that we talked about in terms of something that would be new for us and might not be something we can just check off quickly and say this is done by some phone calls or whatever.
Yeah.
This would require coordination, probably maybe even discussion with legal, developing regulation, and a lot of other things. So when you say open discussion with management, what do you mean? Town management?
I
or-
spoke to Eric and Andrew Miller
Mhm.
about this briefly. Just talking about what we talked about is at the board meeting, my experience with it in the past and how it would work. So the bucket's been planted. We can move forward and bring it up again, see where they want to go with it. I know if you guys want to move forward, then I think working with management and trying to come up with the best possible program is definitely the way to go.
Brian, is this a novel program, or is it in place elsewhere in Commonwealth of Massachusetts? So many,
Several other cities have it.
they do.
Yes.
Havel has it.
Yep, Lawrence has it. Methuen has it. Other communities are looking at it. It is very labor intensive.
Is it additional paperwork that we can get from
Of
them?
course, yeah, it would be a permit for
Certainly
every.
would like to take a look at it.
Yeah. Okay.
Brian, the number 9 trash truck regulation enforcement,
Mm-hmm.
are the police doing any enforcement at all, or?
I haven't met with the police department on this yet. I've spoken to Lori Hall, and I've also spoken to the programmer of the RFID system. I have to get together with them and sit down and start going over all the nuances of the program itself, the RFID system, and how to track everything. And then once we get this up and rolling out, then we can start doing additional enforcement. But that is on my set of things to do, is meet with the police department, talk about it, see how we can get it up. Because what happened was the program switched to the RFID type of a system, and then the sign got damaged, the RFID reader.
Right, right.
So that has since been fixed, paid for. We do have it, it's been programmed. Now we just don't know how to use it.
What about if the police see not all roads placard, and they see somebody that's on a road they shouldn't be on? Are they gonna stop them automatically, or?
They can. We have to, and there was a legal opinion that was issued in the past, that when you start to do this enforcement again, you should roll it out softly and not just start taking people right away. So I think that from the state legal opinion said that's what you should do. I think it was the Attorney General's office that stated that. So, because it hadn't been enforced in a while, you don't come out and just start issuing tickets every day. You roll it out, you let everybody know. They actually even recommend that you send out a letter to all the companies saying, we're going to be enforcing this, make sure you have all your placards. If we do the RFID things, make sure they have all those and they're all working before you start issuing enforcement.
Because we haven't been, I don't think the enforcement's been going on for a few years now.
Correct.
So I like your idea, I like the idea about a letter
Yeah.
letting them know that
Mhm.
this is the program, and make sure
Yes.
everything's updated. I like that,
Yeah.
because this will at least put them on notice that, hey, this is, we're back.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
I've reached out to Lori Hall about getting together in the near future. As soon as that's scheduled, I will let you know, but I'm gonna meet with the computer programmers as well.
We're pretty close to time, or maybe have already sent out all the applications for the permits and placards, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
already, or just
She
about?
just mailed them all
Yeah,
out,
just
they're
about.
slowly coming in.
Yeah.
Well, we can send them.
So
we have
again,
their
the same
email address.
mechanism of getting things,
We could just send out with the placards, we could send out the enforcement notice,
Mhm.
make it triggering
Yeah.
January 1st when the new placards take place.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And if they come to pick them up, you hand them the letter, that's all.
Mhm.
The ICS incident control, is that include HAZWAPA?
No, that is incident command training. It's a little bit different. HAZWOP is for hazardous materials, and that's.
I was just wondering if it included it, that's all. So
Oh,
I
no,
know
no,
it's different.
no. Incident command is all about basically the chain of command and hierarchy and structures during an emergency.
communication. We did some of that several years ago with the fire department.
Yep.
It was really pretty interesting. And does the fire department still coordinate that?
I
or-
coordinated through Jeff Coco.
Jeff Coco's the one, yeah.
Correct.
I saw him the last time I voted.
Okay, yeah, I actually saw him the other night. We talked about it briefly, so we can get that up and,
He was at the flu clinic.
correct.
That's right.
That's right, son.
It would be nice if we could piggyback on much of the training provided by the police and fire department concerning health and safety.
I think
I
they're-
imagine they have a HAZWAPA program
They probably do. HAZWOP is a little bit more involved. The
there. HAZWAPA more
HAZWOP is,
reason we should be familiar with.
Yeah, there's
No,
different
I've
levels.
gone through it several years ago, and a number of years
Okay.
ago in places that I've worked, and it was a good program.
I think the HAZWOP awareness is like a, is it a 12-hour?
Oh, I don't remember, but
Okay.
it was many hours.
The other one's a 40-hour, and that's a full week of school.
Well, at least if we had the option of attending.
Yes, but if you go to the HAZWOP, you can go to any hot zone you want, you're all set.
Well, the incident command, we did that years, I think I got up to N700 or something.
So the
One online or-
NIM 700, ICS 100 through ICS 400. So do you guys know which ones you have and which ones you need? Because you guys may have all done the 700 and the ICS 100.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was many years ago.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I forgot most
So
everything
we
that I
do a
learned.
refresher ICS 100, and then you can actually come take ICS 200, which is the same basic thing, only a little bit more involved.
Yeah, we did a lot of it online, but then, who was the assistant chief? He came in and did one program with us.
Is it Ray Martineau?
I also had one, they did one at the firehouse too. I went to that one on a Saturday. It was like half a day or something like that, but they cut it short a few hours, which is good. But that was a long one. There's one that's really long, a whole day.
Yeah.
I don't remember, I went to that one. I don't remember what it was called.
Probably ICS 100, it's just a couple hours. It's computer or classroom based and then test. It's usually pretty straightforward. Sometimes they give you the answers. Circle that. Hey,
I got 100.
perfect. Yeah, so anything on here else you guys want me to make
The
a high
restaurant
priority?
issues, you said you talked with Pam a couple times.
Yes, PPS, I talked to Megan,
Okay.
actually twice on that. When it was first discussed before, and we actually had a meeting last week, I brought it up again and said, okay, make sure you have this on your radar and this is at the top of your list. She's finishing up her 2016 inspections and gearing up for the fresh round starting in 2017. So that's gonna be one of her priorities, going through every establishment.
Her boss does that. I can't remember her name.
Bridget.
Bridget, okay,
Yes.
Bridget, yeah.
Bridget does the ServSafe training, and I've talked to her twice about this, and we want to get something rolled out this fall for all the establishments, and if anybody here wants to take it as well, we can set
I
that up.
couldn't go to that for some reason, but you guys both went right to the ServSafe last year, and you said it was really good.
Yeah,
It was.
Yeah.
We can actually make you a sandwich legally. But we were, with the ServSafe though, we were gonna talk about at some point whether or not, depending upon the size and number of employees, whether or not we want to increase the number of ServSafe certificates.
And that
We were
can be-
gonna talk about that at some point.
Yes, and that's something we can easily set as a policy, that we enforce as a department while we do our round of inspections. And it could be something like one person per shift mandatory. That's well within your right, and I think it's actually advisable. I think that's a good policy to have. And if you want, I can have PPS come in and go through this with you guys in a little bit more detail and about what they can offer to do additional trainings, or really up to you guys.
Do we have to vote on the number of serve-safe certificates if it's, we want to increase it, or how, we have to discuss it, of course, because I'm not sure how we would do it, based on the size of the restaurant?
We follow the food code. Do we have an additional regulation here, or?
We don't have any local regulation. We
So-
can just set it as a department policy that we, is what it is, the code gives you the leeway to have your safe certified food manager and then dedicated PICs, person in charge. That person in charge has to demonstrate the knowledge that a safe certified person can have. You know, we just set a department policy that we want one person on per shift versus one PIC on one shift and one safe certified person on another shift. So that's what we require as a department. This doesn't be a board vote or a regulation, we can just have that as a department policy.
Now, 6 months or so ago,
We do have a
There
new
was
legal
a-
counsel in town, so I can definitely check.
there was an issue with safe certificates falsely given out in Lawrence.
Yep.
And did that spin over at all to North Andover? And if it has it been addressed?
We don't know.
What
What it
was
comes down
serve-safe
to,
certificates? It was permits.
it was search certificates by a
Certificate. It was
trainer
certificates, yeah.
based out of
Yeah.
Lawrence.
I thought it was the permits.
The serve-safe, and I had my colleagues at Lawrence come out, go through the whole process of doing everything they did, trying to get a handle on it. Serve-safe doesn't save their certificates by town, they save them by name. So if you don't have the person's name, they can't check as to who was certified. So if you don't have a name, you don't know. So, and it's not on their certificates either. So what they did, they went through every single individual restaurant that they had in town and had ServSafe double check and cross check all those names.
I believe that Lawrence required recertification of those that had.
Yeah.
They,
Everyone.
Lawrence paid for them with I think ServSafe may have pitched in, but people didn't have to pay, the town and ServSafe absorbed the cost. Yeah, so that was definitely an interesting situation.
Yeah, it's tough too, because I mean, it took time. And we had to take an examination, and we had to read a book
Yep.
to be certified.
Yes.
So if you are legitimately certified, and then you have to take it all over again because of impropriety, that's, yeah.
Well, we had one, I'm not gonna mention the name, but there was an establishment in town
Mhm.
where one person did purchase, am I correct or incorrect?
We found one.
Right, so what happened with that, you know?
They never opened up here. They were just looking to do something in one of the establishments
Yeah.
to take it over.
Oh.
Okay.
So that person's name came up and we found
Okay.
out,
All right.
so, found one.
Well, that's one thing in terms of big picture, we'll call it monitoring in town, that we have our fingers in, that we haven't really looked at closely. And maybe if we have PPS come in and talk to us a little bit about it, what we'll call it best practices are across the Commonwealth, and if they would make any suggestions to us, including, but not limited to, the idea of serve safe, somebody serve safe all the time.
That's a great idea. I can reach out to
I mean,
PPS.
if I was a restaurant owner,
Yeah.
I want most of my employees to go through what Joe and I went through. It was just a really good lecture.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was a simplified learning experience.
Mhm.
Maybe I didn't say that right. It was a complicated learning experience, but we made it. But what it did is it just got you to think more what you're doing at the time and what good common sense is. Do you put raw meat above cooked food in the refrigerator, or is it vice versa so that nothing
Right.
drips
Oh, yeah.
down?
So, it's a great course.
And where they put the cleaning products and so
Absolutely.
forth, and the temperature of the food
Right.
served. It was
Right.
very, very good.
I will reach out to PPS and find out what they have available and have them come to one of our board meetings coming up. I think it's a great idea.
Now, I said earlier about programs offered by the police and fire department. You gonna look into that a little bit further to us? I'd just like to know what they have to
Oh, for
offer.
trainings.
If it's not training, if it's not gonna cost them additional money,
Okay.
then I would like for the members of the board to have at least the opportunity to attend.
Okay.
Do you want to go put out fires or learn how to arrest somebody?
Well, you know, like, for example, was this past week, Frank, you was called because of an oil leak. It's just
yeah.
nice,
Yeah.
and I'm saying to myself.
Call in the middle of the day.
Yeah, and I'm saying to myself,
Quick responder.
well, how much does Frank really know about that? Well, how much do any of us know about that? I mean, I'm the engineer on the board, but I don't know that much about it myself. So, you know, so
You
the
took the hands
training,
offer.
so I did, but I forgot, it's been years.
Yeah.
You know, so the training that's offered, give us the opportunity to, again, I don't care what type of training that they have, as long as it's health and safety. Give us the opportunity to attend.
Sure, that sounds great.
I mean, even the safe serve, to be honest, I forgot, or the serve safe, I forgot much of what we learned.
Okay.
So,
Well,
mine
yeah,
sitting
that-
down again.
Has it been over 5 years?
Well, it's been a while. I think
It
it's
expires after
years.
5 years, you gotta retake it.
Oh, you do?
It was in
Oh, I didn't know
2014.
that.
Oh, okay.
2014.
So you're
was
good
the
for a
last
few
one.
more years, but we'll be.
Oh, 2000.
I don't know if that, you went to the 2014 one.
Oh.
And of our list, I think the doggy station and the water department presentation would be good projects for the spring, perhaps. We can spend the winter figuring out doggy stations and where those come from and how they can get paid for.
Yeah, I haven't looked into that at all.
I've
at
seen
this
various
point.
places, we're in Newburyport on the weekends, and there are a bunch of them around. They seem to be labeled, they're donated by local businesses, so,
Okay.
you know, if we have money available, that we want to put a couple up in places that have been identified as good places.
Tom, I don't know if I mentioned this to you or anyone else on the board, but, what was the better part of a year or so ago, I commented on what really happened in, where was it, in Michigan? With the water crisis that they had, I don't.
Yeah.
Sometime, I think it was Flint.
It was Flint.
It was Flint.
It was
yeah.
Flint,
It was
yeah.
Flint, the lead.
And
The
since
chloride.
that time, I've actually spent time in the water treatment plant here, and the top shelf.
Hmm.
The quality of the water, the people that operate the plant, good job, real good job.
I would agree with you on that one.
Excuse me?
I would agree with you on that. Okay.
That's a pretty good chunk. I think that gives you a few projects to work on, right? We can sort of rework this a little bit over time.
Okay, that sounds great.
We've talked a couple times about the opioid task force, and I know that there are a couple of them. You're on the regional one.
Yes.
Is there much activity going on? I mean,
They just had an annual
an
event.
event, yeah.
Yes, they did that at the Methuen Middle School a few weeks ago. It was actually September 25th. Very well attended, and it was a great performance with the vendors and the speakers, and they had performance from an American Ninja Warrior. I forget her name. She did a performance and did a speech. So, it was a really good event. We're gearing up after that to start putting stuff for the spring and move forward with that. I've reached out and spoken with Phil Calogero a couple of times. We're going to be getting together soon to take the task force here locally and start doing some more stuff around town with that. There was a grant that we just discussed that just came out through the Attorney General's office that is going to be really something we can work on and get out this mid-December. It's due. So we'll see what happens with that.
The
We'll
town
try it.
task force, is there going to be a report issued upon completion?
I think it's gonna be an
Of the
ongoing
meetings,
task
the meetings?
force. I haven't met with this task force yet. They had one that you guys attended, I think, a while ago. Maybe just.
Ed was appointed to the board,
Yeah.
task force as our appointee, so to speak.
We haven't had another meeting since that first one.
Really?
Hopefully there will be another one soon.
Okay.
I just want to make a comment on the rental housing that we talked about.
Mhm.
I was just thinking back over the last 2 or 3 years. We've had more problems with rental housing than we've had, go back many years, within the last 3 years. We've had,
We deal with a pretty good number of housing issues.
yeah.
Some of the complexes have more issues than others, but, I mean, it's spread out through the entire area, so it's not just North Andover or one area of town or one development. They're pretty consistent. So it is a benefit to have this program. It does alleviate some of those issues that would have been taken care of up front versus until you get compounded with other issues upon other issues.
Yeah.
And then landlords and tenants are fighting, and then we get involved and have to try to clear everything out.
Did Merrimack College buy some of the apartments or condos at Royal Crest?
No, I don't
They did
believe
not,
so.
because I know that a number of the students are in Royal Crest, and every now and then you read about some mischief that they cause.
I'm sure with any college there's mischief, but those are all owned by a company that owns the entire complex. They are rented out to individual students. But Merrimack
Does
does.
students or Merrimack rent a block of them that they,
I'm not sure. I know there's a good chunk of students that do live there, so Merrimack may.
I
Rent
sort
a
of got
block
the
of
impression
them?
that they use it as an auxiliary dorm, so to speak, and they have rent space there.
Okay.
Directly.
And that may be the case. We haven't had any housing issues with any college students. It's regular tenants that have issues with chronic dampness, which
We addressed last
Yeah, we
year.
went through that, yeah.
we're still addressing it now.
And we're addressing that for many years.
Yes.
The
And
problem's
other-
been there for many
Yeah,
years.
and there are other types of regular, normal housing issues that other tenants have with, you know, things that are broken, that need to get fixed. They call us and let us know. So we do work with the management company there on a host of different things. But hopefully, if there was a program that was in place, it would alleviate some of that. Can't alleviate it all, because you don't catch all, and things do happen over the course of wear and tear. But at least it would catch some of it up front.
Now, speaking of Merrimack College in Royal Crest,
Mhm.
I had been under the false assumption that there was going to be an overhead walkway. And now instead they have the lights, and I understand that that cost $1 million.
I don't know.
That's what I was told by
Okay.
several people.
I don't know the.
But I haven't read it.
it. I can look into that for you and find out. I know they did put it in, and there's a safety.
Corruption tax.
It's much more safe for the students to cross 114 now.
Oh, absolutely, but every 100 yards you have a light in that part of 114 right now.
Keeps your speed down, right? I guess the students are playing, you know, the game Frogger. Okay. The
Oh,
students
really?
are literally running across the road
Mhm.
trying to dodge cars. So this
Oh.
is at least.
Oh, yeah, I see those.
Well, not by intent, they were.
I will check into the funding of that. I'm pretty sure Merrimack would probably be the one who paid for it, but I can.
No, it was reported in the paper, I mean, by the paper, the report was it was shared between the state and the college, and the whole infrastructure, the entire thing was $1 million, but included some stuff going beyond just the poles and
Oh,
all that. I mean, there was.
I did not know that.
There's a little bit more of a build-out that I think is gonna come in terms of.
Some walkways and stuff.
I think
Off
there's
either
a
end.
Phase 2
Yeah.
going along 114.
Diane DeZoglio was key in getting that from the
Okay.
state, and,
Okay, good.
but that was the number, but it included that piece of things as well as sort of some build-out from that. That was what I recall from what I read in the paper as initial reporting.
Okay. But I never heard about the bridge being built across.
well, that,
That
I
was
had
my
heard
initial
that.
impression also until or very early on when they started talking about a cross, I don't remember what the term was, a crossway or something, but I'm sure that would be more than $1 million.
And more maintenance and,
Potentially more risk too.
yeah.
I
So,
mean, because you have, right now, you have the light at Frederick's, then you have their crossway, then you have 2 lights at Burger King. So within a very short span, now you have 4 lights.
But you think of that light at Fuddruckers, there's no real pedestrian access to there to use that as a crosswalk. It's not, there's no walk-up to
No,
it.
I understand that, I'm saying that it's a lot of lights in a short period, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
And there's more traffic tied up.
And more traffic
There is.
tied up.
It's
Yeah.
true.
I go home that way, I know.
I avoid that way, I know.
I know back roads.
So bad.
I can't, I know.
Okay.
All right, or,
Anything else you want to put on for the next meeting? Any other topics to discuss for the November meeting? Anything?
well, depending when you can get the PPS people to come, I mean, I think we'd be open at any time.
Okay.
Rental housing, can we get copies of some other programs that are around to kind of start looking at and thinking? I don't think we need to do this in a month, but if we can start looking at how other municipalities have approached it, and Ron is gonna have some stuff maybe that'll probably come pretty quickly, so I think we've generated some things we can start with planning for the next meeting.
Okay.
I have a question. It's, when you mentioned Ron, it's the $100, $200, $300 fine, we adopted it, but is that part of a state?
Yeah, that's the Mass General Laws, Chapter 40,
All
Section
right, so yeah, we
21D.
can't go,
We can go up to 300 maximum, according to that law.
because it's Mass General Law, then that's why they can appeal it in Lawrence District Court?
That's why it goes, yes, it's done under that, so it's just like a parking ticket or a speeding ticket. It gets
Okay.
sent to a clerk.
Because when we assess a fine,
Hey, how are you?
when we assess a fine as a board, I mean, they always have the right to go before a judge on that too, but isn't that, we've assessed much higher fines than that, of course.
It depends on what you assess them under. Chapter 40, Section 21D gives local authorities the ability to...
I don't mean tobacco, I'm talking about other violations
Right.
that are egregious.
Yes, other things can use that same chapter to issue a municipal fine, such as your Conservation Commission does the same thing under
Okay.
Chapter 40, Section 21D. Any other local regulations you have can also use that as a fining mechanism. If you use other state laws, such as the State Housing Code or Mass General Laws, Chapter 111, those go up to a $1,000 fine, which is done under a different state law.
Okay.
That will go to a different court. Chapter 40, Section 21D goes to clerk magistrate. The other ones, I don't know all the legals about the more expensive fines, because 99% of things we do is the Chapter 40.
All right. I mean, we have some fines that are $100 a day, $200 per day, $500 per day, I mean, that adds up.
Yes, it does. And under Chapter 40, Section 21, you can do $300 a day if the violation still persists. So with the tobacco sale, that's a one-time
Right.
thing. If it's, say, you did something in a wetland, Conservation Commission, you fine you $300 a day until that is corrected,
Okay.
which gives you a little more inclination to correct it real
I
fast.
can't tell you off the top of my head, but we have some things like that that also are
Okay.
also that persist until something is corrected.
Yeah,
It could be housing code.
Mhm.
Until it's corrected, it's every day you can tack on those fines.
I mean, the fines like for, I'm just clarifying it for me, the fines, the truck regulation enforcement fines, some are $500 a day, depending upon,
I'd have to look into that. I thought there was 300.
was it 300?
I think so. I can look into that.
No, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have the rates in front of me,
Yeah,
but. Okay.
I'm just,
Okay. The cap is usually 300 unless it's a different state law, which gives you a different fine structure.
all right, so you go by what?
Some of these are so old, it goes from $10 to $50 even. But some of the other Mass General laws go up to 1,000.
It's kind of like when Dr. Eagle held everybody up for $1 million.
Yes, exactly. So some of the older state laws, literally it's like $10 a day or $50 maximum. Whereas the nuisance laws, Chapter 111, Section 121, is $1,000
A day.
a day.
Okay, so that ties it in for me. Now I can see why some of our
Okay, yeah.
daily fines, I mean, they can add
Yeah.
up to multiple thousands of dollars.
Right, yep.
If we wanted to.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
All
I
right.
think we have some good projects in place and some
Thank
things
you.
that can still be considered sort of as things to come, so. All right, anything further?
Ed, I just want to fill you in. We, with the Sam's Mobile, we decided to adjudicate it.
Why don't we do that outside the meeting?
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Move to close the meeting?
Second?
Good timing.
Yeah, a lot of seconds.
All those in favor?
Who was the second?
Aye. And thank you.
They all seconded.